We're going to do scarring.
Cool.
Cuts and scars. Okay? So, Zoe, come on, you've been dying this. And actually, Zoe's a good example for this because when you're not because you want to cut her, but because what happens quite frequently in youth theater, or when you've got a character that is like, you know, pretty or young or handsome, and you don't know what to do with them to make them look really mean. So what happened to us is years ago we did Diary of Anne Frank, and we had a freshman who was actually really pretty. It was a boy. No, that's not what I mean. It was a boy, and he had a very, very pretty face, borderline feminine. He was really, really pretty. And very young looking, but he had to play a Nazi soldier. So the only way to really get him to look like he had seen some action was to put some pretty severe scarring on his face. And I'm going to actually mimic that scarring on your face.
How long ago?
Okay, because you can do the scarring. Well, again, it relies upon the actor to then take that to the level where they put on the mean face, they scowl, they use those sorts of things.
She tried to shoot the still from mine.
Okay. She was like, really?
Yeah.
Oh boy. So this is fun. I cannot tell you how many times kids have gone home and they've been like really loving to prank their parents, and they say, "Mr. LeClair, I went home and I walked in and I said, Mom, look what Mr. LeClair did to me today." Yeah, exactly. And so it becomes problematic. The thing about scars is they're really easy. Really easy. So what we're going to do is we're actually going to make two types of scars on Zoe. The first one I'm going to do is a scar that's old, something that's been there for a while. Okay? And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to up it, and I'm going to make it look like a fresh cut. Which is, the reason that you have to do it the other way around is because a scar is scar tissue, and it heals over and looks more like your regular flesh, whereas a cut obviously is an opening, and it's an open wound and has blood. Okay? So, how does it go?
We're going to do it all down our eyes.
Okay, so I'm going to put a second one over here. So I'm fading that in because the scar tissue is going to be lighter than the regular skin, and I want that to fade in. I don't want that to be like this big white spot on her face. All right? No, it's all right. Okay. So what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to use a brush that you guys haven't seen me use yet. I'm going to use a detail brush. Okay? It's got a nice long set of bristles. Okay? And I'm going to start that scar. Because I just want it to be a scar, I'm actually going to be working with primarily just the brown, but I want to give it a tint. I want it to be a little bit red, so it's kind of a fresh scar. It's not a scar that, like, just happened. Maybe it's about, you know, a month or two old. Okay. So there's our first line. Notice how having the longer bristles almost makes like a pin line. Okay? You want that when you're doing anything highly detailed like this. Okay? So the next thing that we're going to do is, no, it's just a matter of the bristles for some reason were out and not put it together. Remember, shadow and a highlight, right? So the thing about scars is that they puff up. And so now I've got some shadows. Before I put in some highlights, I'm putting a little brown in the middle of the cut too, so that it looks just as aged. What I'm going to do is I'm going to actually take my sponge, and this is a matter of blending. And so now Zoe's got some pretty nasty scars. Okay, and I haven't really done anything except make a couple lines on her face and just fade them in properly. So now it's this subtlety. It's just something that changes her character just a little bit, and there's a history behind it. So now the character has a story. All right? But to bring the story more to life, we're going to make the story fresh. And so now we're working on, nope, we're going to do this without any fake blood. Okay? Well, what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to make the cut fresh, and I'm going to make it wide. By pressing down on the brush harder, ladies and gentlemen, by pressing down on the brush harder, what happens is I actually widen the cut. Open the cut. And turn it into a very wide gash. And again, all I've done is use a different color. Alright, I haven't done anything really horrible except for use just another color. Okay? Now, if I want to make that look really deep, we have to puff it up more, and I have to add in a shadow where the flesh is ripped. Okay? Because the flesh is ripped, so it's not a scar tissue where it's just a gentle bump. The flesh is ripped open. So we've got to make sure that we've got a shadow running along the inside of the wound. So now there's a shadow on the inside of the wound. It deepens the cut immediately. And subtly. Notice I didn't use black. Why? Because black is too severe. Okay? So I'm going to give her a little bit more shadow. Okay? Well, many times I've done makeup where it's supposed to look like somebody was in an attack.
You kind of looks like Shrek.
The more I retain the lines, everybody, the better the cut looks.
I realized about the same iris scarf for mine.
Now, in order to retain the cut look to it, I I'm not going to do a lot of blending in there. I want it to be very strict and straight. If I do some blending in there, that's just going to not make it fresh. That's going to bring it down. So the actor will have to be very careful with walking around. So the last thing we can do is to really make this very, very effective is we can add a highlight. I didn't say she was going to look ugly. I just said that she was going to have a story. Now there's a reason, now there's something behind her. There's some sort of story that you're intrigued by.
He's like, don't talk about it. Oh my gosh.
Okay? So we put a little highlight in there, but what do we need to do with that highlight?
Blend it.
Gotta blend it.
All again.
If we don't blend that, it's not going to work. It's going to look horrible. So the one thing that I want you to notice about the blending is that I keep using the same sponge to blend with, for the most part. I don't use other sponges. The reason that I do that is because some of the color is still on there, so it helps with the blending if you just gently touch it. And that's really the key, guys, is to gently touch things, not to rub hard and try to like smush it in. That doesn't do anything. Okay. And there you go. Now she's got a pretty deep cut. I'm going to show you the last thing. I need somebody that is absolutely, completely, and totally not allergic to latex. Okay.
Wait, what are you going to do?
I got a whole other set of stuff that we're going to do tomorrow. We've got another thing of makeup tomorrow, but this is the last one today. I'm going to take, I haven't done any guys, so come on, Leah. Okay. And we're just going to work on Leo's hand. Now, unlike everything else, unless I don't want to work on your face because you haven't shaved. So one thing that you want to never do is do latex on somebody that is allergic to latex primarily, yeah. But if they've got a lot of facial hair or a lot of body hair, if you use the latex on them, it hurts. It hurts a lot. Okay, so give me your hand, and hold your hand up like this, okay? Okay, so everybody knows that there's different degrees to burns, right? Okay. The different degrees to burning, we've got first, second, and third. First is just basically a sunburn. Alright? Yeah, first degree burns hurt. Second degree burns are nasty because second degree burns blister and peel. Okay? Second degree burns are the ones that look the best on stage. Third degree burns don't look as good on stage because third degree burns is where the flesh burns away. And so it gets really, really nasty, and it gets black, and it's like charcoal, and it's not fun. So what I'm doing now is, this hurts the actor a little bit.
That's a great image to put on our head for lunch.
Okay? So yeah, I'm good at that. So what I'm doing is I'm just going to give him a little burn, really quickly. And what I'm doing is, you know when you used to play with Elmer's glue when you were a kid? And you used to make it like peel off your hand? Well, that's how we start, okay? We start with the Elmer's glue peel sort of thing going on, but I don't peel it all the way. Now, the thing about doing a burn is that they don't last long. They don't take long, but they don't last long. So we go back in. We're going to start with, we're going to start with putting a little bit of a foundation on there. Just a slightly different color from Leo's, because I don't have that one in stock, but this will work anyway. Make it a little bit red. And then I'm going to go back in with some lighter color afterwards. Okay?
Oh God, that already looks terrible.
Okay? So what we're going to do now is I'm going to take that blood red, because I already charged this up, and I'm actually going to force it right into the little pockets that I peeled. Okay? And so we've already started to burn them up. And again, this is really, really quick, because then I just take some light. This is actually doing, this latex is making your shadows for you. Okay? And so the last thing that I need to do is I just need to bump some shadows, right? Because highlights and shadows are what we need to get forms. So the shadows I'm going to bump, I'm taking a very, very tiny bit of black. Little tiny bit. I'm just going to put a little tiny bit of black to make those look deep enough that they're painful. And there we go. I just completed a burn on him in about a minute.
Oh, wow.
Okay?
That's so cool.
Okay?